heart, his desire for adhesion with the Creator through the group, and your desire for adhesion with the Creator through the group. These are precisely the desires that need to be connected. If we join them together, this will be the key in which the light will be revealed. This is how each friend needs to be considered, and to these points we need to connect. So, we've probably heard this phrase all our lives, love your friend as yourself. It is part of just about every religion and almost every philosophy that exists in the world. It seems to us that we understand what this means. It also seems to us that even in our simple understanding of it, we don't really know how to do it. Though many people feel that because they're connected to some external action that is love-like, in which we give to others in some way, maybe institutionally or through our religion or through things that we might do to save the planet or any of these kinds of things, that this is an action that we can think of as love the friend as a self. Now, obviously, there should be some result from this. Something happens as a result of it. Simply to tell people that this is somehow the way that we should be, and that's what we consider to be a good guy and a good citizen, is not really enough to make a person do it. And even when we do it, do we see a result in the world? No, maybe we feel good about ourselves at the moment when we attempt to do what we understand, what we think that is. But why would something that seems so kind of vague, ephemeral, and which results are passing so quickly, why would that be the central idea of the highest yearning of the human heart? Why would it appear in all religions? Obviously, it represents something very important, and it's something that we feel is true. Now, the Kabbalists tell us that love the friend as the self is actually a way of understanding the general law of the universe. In a sense, the meaning of what it is to be connected to all of life. But as long as we're simply listening to that and we don't probe it ourselves, we don't take serious questions to that idea, we're not going to discover what it is or how to do it. Because a judge has only what his eyes tell him. And to judge by anything other than what you discover in your own sensation as you question and as you attempt to do things, well, that's strictly forbidden by the Kabbalists, because a person won't attain anything that way. So let's look at an abstract from an article by Baal Salam. It comes from Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, the receiving of the Torah. And it's a section called The Revelation of Godliness. It's on the classroom page. It's one of the links opposite today's date, today's lesson. He starts. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And it's from Leviticus 19:18, from the 5 books of Moses. Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva was a great Kabbalist, a great sage. He was the teacher of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. Rabbi Akiva says it is a great rule in the Torah, or the great rule of the Torah. 1. This statement demands explanation, because the word law in Hebrew also means whole, indicates a sum of details that when put together form the above whole. It turns out that when he says about the mitzvah, the commandment, of love thy neighbor as thyself, that it is a great rule in the Torah, we must understand that all of the other 612 mitzvot, precepts in the Torah, with all of their interpretations, are no more and no less than the sum of the details inserted and contained in that single mitzvah of love thy friend as thyself. This is quite perplexing, because you can say regarding the precepts between man and his fellow man, but how can that single precept support within it all of the precepts between man and the Lord, which are the vast majority of the precepts? So he's telling us here there are 613 mitzvahs that are in the that are enumerated in the Torah, and most of them, they're divided up into different kinds of things. Some things have to do with agriculture, with the specifics of what land a person lives in, and what season, and how to conduct yourself in your attitude towards your fellow man. And some of them have to do with the temple and all kinds of things that are strictly between a person and the Creator. These are ways that it has traditionally been separated. The understanding has been separated while we have been in the period of exile and understood these commandments as physical things. You know, this is like the starting point for people learning about it. And Baal Salam is addressing the starting point of the students that he was teaching at the time. So the question is, how can this be the principal law? Why would this cover absolutely everything? And that every other commandment of the 613, there's 612, are only the details of this particular thing. In other words, how to do that particular law. How could it cover everything if, on one hand, most of them really have to do, that they're divided in their purpose? How can it be that the relationship between a person and his friend be exactly the same as the law connecting the person, obligating the person to have a certain relationship to the Creator? And two, if we can still strain to find some way to reconcile their words, there comes before us a second saying, even more conspicuous, about a convert who came before Hillel. Hillel was a great Kabbalist teacher, and asked him, "Teach me the whole of the Torah while I'm standing on one leg." In other words, what is this all about? And give it to me short and sweet, so I can understand it. And he replied, "Anything that you hate, do not do to your friend," which is the Aramaic translation of love thy neighbor as thyself. And the rest means go study. So he's saying, well, even Hillel said exactly the same thing. He said, well, he phrased it in an interesting way here. He said, what you find hateful, don't do to your friend. And then that's it. That's the whole law while you're standing on one foot. And everything else is just that you study the detail of it. You have to discover what it is in every aspect that concerns a person's correction. I want to come back to this, but I want to go on first. Here before us is a clear law that in all the 612 precepts and all the writings in the Torah, there is none that is preferred to love thy neighbor as thyself, because they only aim to interpret and allow us to observe the precept of loving the neighbor unreservedly, since he specifically says the rest means go study, meaning that the rest of the Torah are interpretations of that one precept, which cannot be complete if not for them. So let's look a little more closely here at what he's saying. The term convert doesn't mean somebody who wants to join the Jewish religion. A convert is a person who has determined that they wish to approach the light, the Torah, for the purpose of correction. That is, they have converted from the desire to function only from the will to receive to the desire to function from the will to bestow, to be able to discover it. And they are a student. They come into the environment of learning and he asks for some direction from the Rav as he enters this environment, and he's not a man off the street. This is a person who already has what you can say is a point in the heart, but is at the very beginning of it. This is a convert. And also, every time we go through some kind of a change in which we overcome something, we need to overcome something through above reason, and we receive a completely new vessel, and that is also called a convert, that rededication every single time. It's like a newborn child. So here a person comes in and he asks, what is Kabbalah? What is the wisdom? And his Rav tells him it is just... Now he addresses him as to where he is. He doesn't say, love thy friend as thyself. He says, at least do no damage. What you find hateful, don't do to your friend. This is the prerequisite for just the beginning. It's lo lishma. You know, it's the starting of the path in such a way that a person recognizes that the will to receive, this separation within us that says, I'm an individual, and there are all these other individuals, and I succeed or get my necessity at their expense. That at least a person should already be sensing that this is not what they want, and that it causes damage to them, this desire, and that they wish not to damage, but to find its opposite. So that's the beginning point for the converted point in the heart, for the converted desire. And the rest means go and study, so that one can reach the real meaning of and achieve love the friend as the self, which is really the goal. It's both the method and it's the goal. It is all of the detail and everything boiled down into a single desire and a single action that has really layers around it. Not that there are 613 or 620 completely, who can imagine what those desires might be? It's a desire for this and that, a car thing that has to be converted into my... No. It's all speaking about a singular desire to serve myself, to receive in order to serve myself, and at the expense of others, which, whether we recognize it or not, that is what's really at the core of our desire to serve ourselves. Not only that I would enjoy, but that my friend would have a lack. I would be the only one enjoying. Then he goes on. Before we delve into the heart of it, we must observe that precept carefully, as we are told, love thy neighbor as thyself. The word thyself tells us that you must love your friend in the same measure that you love yourself, and in no manner less than that. Meaning you must constantly stay on guard to satisfy the needs of everyone of the Israeli nation, just as you stand on guard to satisfy your own. And then he says that is utterly impossible. For not many are the people who can satisfy their own needs during the daily work. So how can you tell them to work to satisfy the wishes of the entire nation? And we couldn't possibly think that the Torah exaggerates, for it warns us not to add or to subtract, to demonstrate that these words and laws were given with utter precision. He says that we are to love the friend in precisely the same measure that we love ourselves. In other words, what's our condition right now? The most important person in the entire world is me. My needs come before everybody else's. And I feel sorry for myself, and I have compassion for myself, and I protect myself like a lioness, to be certain that what it is that I need really comes first. This is not so revealed to us as we start, but this is our nature, and this is what we were created as, basically. And this is what's undergoing transformation. Not saying that it is in itself that it's bad, it's simply what we are, and it is also the means by which we are able to transform ourselves by understanding this. But in any case, the measure of love that we feel for ourselves is endless. You know, it's as deep as the sea, it's as high as the sky. And that same degree we are supposed to apply somehow towards the need of another. And he says it's not actually possible to do it. But what does he mean by it's not possible? It's not possible if we look at it in the way that the world normally looks at this, that we are supposed to be going out to, that we start this process by providing things for all kinds of people, that I try to figure out what particular desire for something physical a person has and then try to satisfy them. That's not it. It's asking for something much more fundamental than that, which is to have an attitude, an inborn attitude, that just like the one that I constantly have, that I have a total vigilance over my own well-being in a certain way, and that actually, rather than being focused on me, needs to be focused as an intention towards others. Let's take a look at some of the questions. Jasmine from Pennsylvania. So the convert has already lived through the path of pain and willingly chooses to convert to the path of Torah by coming to Kabbalah and converts? Well, it's something that happens inside of a person's heart. There is a determination that somehow, you know, there's an awakening and a person begins to ask this question, what is the light? What is the Torah? That's not an unconscious question. That's something, a person only asks that question when they're looking for the purpose of their life. So yes, this is instruction to people who want to ask that question. Kara from California. So would you say that this very first step in the process, which is called the ladder? Well, it's no, it's a way of approaching the ladder. The ladder consists of what happens when we actually make corrections, and we do a transformation. You know, one of the 125 steps of of Sephirot that make up the parts of theme and so on that make up worlds. That's a step. It's an interchange where we alter an intention from an egoistic intention to an altruistic intention over any desire. Any desire, doesn't matter what the desire is. That's a step on the ladder. But what we're having here is that the convert comes and he's traveling with his ladder. He may have been traveling all his life and comes to a place, an environment, plants the ladder down and becomes ready to climb it. Leslie from New Jersey, you mean we have to satisfy our friends or neighborhood before our personal needs? No. No, friend does not mean a neighborhood or a civic environment or anything like that. Kabbalah speaks about desires, and it speaks about the uniting of a desire, a particular desire. And a friend, as we read in the intention, is somebody who shares the same desire for bonding with the Creator. It's somebody else who has a point in the heart and is working towards precisely the same goal. It's not possible for us to just go around willy-nilly and try to love everybody and think about their concerns wherever we are in our workplace or on the street or so on. It's impossible to start there. We have to start through something that already is connected to the highest point of adhesion, and we have to do it with that part of another person who is your friend in the sense that he shares or she shares the path with you. This is a uniting of desires, because the physical thing, that's not even real, that's an illusion. What we are is we are desires. So in the first place, when we can recognize that there is a desire that is similar to ours, whether we're united to it or not, it's only in that place that we can begin to learn how to unify with another. You know, below the physicality, below the personality, below any of that, by recognizing that eternal point, that point of the Creator above that exists not just within me in my desire to reach spirituality, but also in another who's on the same, who's working with us. That's what we unite with. Felicia from Melbourne. Do I need to try and sincerely apply this understanding in my day-to-day life? This has to be done within the Kabbalistic group. If we achieve this with the friends in the group, well, men and women do it in different ways. Men do it by a kind of bonding between them directly, because that's the place where men are broken. Women do it by supplying the field in which this bonding, sort of the basis, the power in which all of this bonding happens in the broken parts of the male aspect of the soul. So they hold that whole arena like a force field and give a general desire to that, allowing the broken parts of the will to bestow to become reunited. So it's not done in our daily life. What we try to do is to use the environment and put a part of our daily life into it, the Kabbalistic environment, by working in dissemination, by allowing ourselves to go into situations where we can see that like desire in the other. We see it working towards the same goal, and we are given opportunities to recognize this in the other and to actually work on that. I don't want to get too far ahead of the article here because he's going to explain this beautifully. Leslie is asking another question. Why don't we have this high desire on our well-being? Because we were created in the opposite form. The Creator created us to be exactly opposite from that. He gave us that. We didn't create ourselves. He gave us that. We received that. Now what the Creator wants from us is that we create within ourselves that quality that is like His. Then it will be unconditional, it will be our own possession, and it will be uncoerced, because we will have done it against the nature that He gave us. So it will be just like His, uncoerced. See, there's some questions from our Spanish friends. Hagia from Argentina. On what level are we if we do not understand what we read in the Zohar? We're not studying the Zohar here. Please make your questions precisely about the article that we're studying and not general questions about Kabbalah. I'll answer this question. Nobody can just start off reading and understanding what's in the Zohar. The Zohar is written for people already in spirituality. We have to go through a process of preparation. We have to learn from the articles that we're studying here, and we have to learn from the preliminary and preparatory books that allow us to understand what's written in the Zohar, because we have to first enter spirituality. So the fact that you don't understand what's in the Zohar means you're below spirituality. But we don't study the Zohar directly. First, we have to prepare. So let's go on. 4. And if this is still not enough for you, let me tell you that the simple explanation of that precept of loving your fellow man is even harsher. That we have to put the need of our friends before our own, as our sages have written regarding the verse, because he is happy with thee, regarding the Hebrew slave. When sometimes he has but one pillow, if he lays on it himself and he doesn't give it to his slave, he doesn't observe because he's happy with thee, meaning the Lord is happy with thee. For he lays on the pillow and the slave on the ground. And if he does not lie on it and does not give it to the slave as well, it's sodomite rule. It turns out that against his will, he must give it to his slave, while the master himself lies on the ground. What's sodomite rule? Sodomite law is what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. The law of love your friend as yourself, your neighbor as yourself, is what's yours is yours and what's mine is yours. So what's a master and a slave here? our attitude towards life and others is as a master, that everything around us is a slave to us. It serves us. The correct relationship is that whatever it is that we feel that is our concern and our comfort has to be felt not in our own vessel, but it has to be felt in the vessel of the others. As long as we receive only into our own limited vessel, then the amount of light we receive is limited, and it's also doomed to go out. There can't be any lasting pleasure in that. The Creator has designed the whole plan to bring us to a permanent, eternal pleasure. And in order to do that, we have to be able to feel a desire and a need fulfilled in the largest possible vessel. That largest possible vessel exists in the needs, the spiritual needs, of the slave. So that the one who was prior was a slave to this master who thinks that the world serves his own desire, the slave actually becomes the vessel of the fulfillment of the master and of the slave. That they become one thing, but unlimited, completely interconnected. We need to understand that there is a pre-existing reality. It's not like it's, we're going to, let's go to the overhead camera. Guys, let's go to the overhead camera. Thank you. When we enter the path, we start to study Kabbalah, just like that that convert. Our perception, our feeling and sensation, and our desire makes us feel as though we're a single island, and that there is nothing other than that island there. Right? That's basically what we perceive. This little stick figure here. But this article tells us that the Creator, that this law of love your friend as yourself serves for us to understand both the relationship between a person and the Creator, the way we think of the Creator as being up there someplace only dealing with me in some kind of a special way, and between man and man. Let's say there's another guy on another island here. But that this law of love your friend as yourself really serves both to connect a person to the other and to reveal the Creator. This whole reality exists, but we don't, we're not really connected with it, and we can't discover very much of it, even if we enter into it. Let's say we enter into the environment of a Kabbalistic group where we can begin to do this work with a single desire, my own desire. Well, this little point, even if it grows a little through the effort that I put into it, will reveal only that much by my own power. That is all that a person can sense of this greater reality that we'll call the Creator. Even though this group is filled up with many people, many of these desires that are exactly like ours. And I might be working with them, but if I am not working with them in such a way that I want to be able to perceive and feel that they, at their core, really are similar to me, then I'm left with my single power, and this is all that I can reveal of the whole. And we'll return to this drawing later. We also find the same instruction in the sentence about the measure of loving our fellow man. For here, too, it compares the satisfaction of the needs of his friend to the satisfaction of his own needs, as with the example of because he is happy with thee regarding the Hebrew slave. So here, too, he has put he has but one chair and his friend hasn't any, and there's a verdict that if he sits on it and he doesn't give it to his friend, he breaks the commandment of love thy neighbor as thyself, because he does not satisfy the needs of his friend as he satisfies his own. And if he does not sit on it and he doesn't give it to his friend, it is as evil as sodomite rule. Therefore he must let his friend sit on it, and he should either stand or sit on the ground. It is understood that this is the law regarding all the needs that are at his disposal and his friend's lacks. And now go and see if this precept is in any way feasible. So he's saying, okay, so if we look at this on the level, on the physical level, and try to think about the satisfaction of external or physical needs, it's very clear that that can't possibly be what it's talking about. Because if we actually did that, nobody would have anything. Nobody could satisfy their own needs, let alone the other. It has to be speaking about an intentional level. There is a way to do this, but it's not done externally and it's not done everywhere. It's done in a specific way internally and in a specific environment. We must understand why the Torah was given to the Israeli nation and not all. Well, let me see if I'll go back to the questions and then I'll come back to that. Parisala from Toronto. Granted, everything you teach well, can we show compassion for our non-friends, everyday people, showing them altruistic acts and doing them? Of course, and you should. You know, just even by civil standards, that's what a person should be doing. But that has nothing to do with what we need to understand about this in order to advance spiritually. Nobody's telling you not to be nice to people. The question is, what does love your friend as yourself mean? And how is it that a person can do it, under what conditions, and what does it do for us to actually attain loving the friend as the self? Monty from Washington. Can we say that loving others as yourself is the realization that others are yourself, and that there is no self and that there are no others? The requirement to love the friend as the self is literal. You can say, love the friend in the same way that you love yourself. Or you can say, love the friend as the friend is the self. In the intention that we read, it said that the self, the I, is not the personality. It's not the character of the person. It's certainly not the body of the person. It's not their intellect. The I is that part. The actual I is that part yearning for the connection, the bonding with the Creator. That's an indivisible I. That's a desire. And any other I, any other desire that is precisely that desire is not an other desire. That is also the self. In other words, when we unify that desire for bonding with the Creator with the friend's desire for bonding with the Creator, they are one and the same I. And this is also telling us that the reason why it serves, this law of loving the friend as the self, serves to fulfill all the laws of the Torah of man to God as well as man to man, is that what is revealed in that connection between the desire to bond with the Creator that I think is in me and the one that I discover is one and the same, that same I that is in the other person, is that in that connection, that is exactly the same desire as the Creator. And by seeing, by collecting that other as the self, the power of yearning of that one becomes connected to the power of yearning of the one that I think of as my own I. That the strength of the desire towards spirituality becomes multiplied by the joining of these two. The vessel that can be filled by the light is increased that way. No individual can really attain this connection with the Creator, directly with the Creator. We have one, because it's an essence, and you can't deal directly with an essence. Two, because we fool ourselves about what's going on in our relation, in our ideas in relation to an abstract essence, like what we think of as the Creator. And three, because the Creator gave us the other in order to reveal the Creator. That action towards the other really reveals more and more of the field in which we exist, which is called the Creator. Because when the other, this other I, is seen as precisely the same one, and we recognize it, then that much of the field called the Creator, or this sensation of connection, and the connection is made up of a particular quality of bonding for the other, because not only does my master want to serve this slave, this master wants to serve this slave, and what's left here is simply the service, the exact same thing, which is bestowal. The bestowal equals the Creator to a certain degree. Now, if this one becomes included in it, then this much more of the Creator's quality becomes revealed. As more and more of these become included in this love of the other as the self, eventually the entire field or system becomes completely revealed. All of this. Every bit of it. And the bonding that happens between the friends, that is, those people working in a Kabbalistic group that reveal the absolute connection that their I is one and the same thing, through this work with the other, the Creator is revealed. Because the friend and the challenges of relating to the friend are constant. You can't fool yourself. Really concrete things occur. We are constantly working against our desire in relation to the friend. You can't measure it in relation to the Creator. So therefore, to love the friend as the self unifies every possible correction. And all of the details of, that is, all of the subsequent corrections that happen within us, the 612 layers of correction of desire that happen to us as we progress in this work within the group, they are really just the details, the addition of another friend against a particular kind of egoism that we need to overcome in order to include that one, and the next one, and the next one. Very, very practical. But the unity that's revealed in that is the divine unity. And what's revealed in it is actually both the law, the Creator, and the ability to be those things. Now that's why congresses are focused on the concept, on unity, and giving people an opportunity in a kind of an intensive fashion to go into an environment where you know that everybody else who's there is seeking the same thing based on a similar desire. Going into that as the premise, just as the starting point of entering it, and thinking about it as you prepare to go to the Congress, that what it is that I am going to meet in that place is a desire precisely like my own, but a magnified desire, that through this connection, unity will be revealed between me and that person. That there's something very special in that environment that you can't get in a place that's focused on everything else or anything else. All we need to do is to understand that that is a welcoming place. That is a place of love. That's a place where everybody there is looking at the other and attempting to look at the other, even if they might find it difficult at one time or another. At one moment, or they may feel some kind of a challenge. It doesn't matter. You know that you're dealing with a person who loves you, wants to bond with you to the level of revealing their absolute affinity with you. And by doing that, by being able to experience this kind of love, which is not available really out on the street or in the workplace, it's like something that a person dreams about, wants. Oh, if only the world could be like this. If only there was such a thing as real love. If only there were real friends. Then the world would work. It's a very childish desire, isn't it? But it's an innocent and a true desire. And the reason we desire it is because it exists and it's the key to everything. But this work specifically against our nature is only about the bonding with the other. It's not about any acquisition of knowledge. The reason that we study things is to keep before us the same idea. For instance, we have probably, Mike and I, have said the same thing in about 40 or 50 different ways in every lesson, and have repeated the same concept over and over, that same love your friend as yourself concept over and over in every lesson. And it takes repeating because it must be kept before us all the time, so that even when we think that maybe the Kabbalist is talking about something else, and we become confused by a certain thing, and we begin to think, oh, maybe it's actually physical, and I'm going to be able to use this that way or this way, or maybe I need to understand this to gain control of it, that in the end, what we discover is the single thing that we're working on is the law of love the friend as the self. Because that's the way in which we reveal the Creator, not with red strings, not with knowledge, not with physical actions, but specifically working with others who have precisely this desire. And what happens is, after a while, it becomes kind of a habit, second nature to us, to want this more than anything, and to see everything that occurs in this light. It takes practice. And that's why the friend is defined as the person who's studying with you, who's trying to reach this thing. Because there, it's so clear in the person's heart. The only reason that they're there is that. You can say, you can suspect them. You can say, I don't think so. I think they just want to control this, or they want this or that or the other thing. But you must eventually return. Within this environment, it helps us return over and over again to the fact that what it is that you want, the reason you're here, is the same reason that they're here. And eventually a person sees beyond all that, and awakenings occur. Real unity occurs. And it's not something that can really be explained in words. It's something that happens in the heart. Monty from Washington, can we say that loving others... Oh yeah, you just said that, and I agree. Is this the first intention to move towards altruism? Mick from UK is asking. Actually, it's the first and the last, and it's the means. They're all connected. The desire to move towards this intention is what builds... No, the determination, the decision to move towards it is what builds a desire, because it's hard. And the difficulties in doing it builds the need to actually accomplish it. The accomplishing of it is actually the bonding, the revelation of the Creator. It's the highest spiritual level. Mickey from Michigan, what I don't understand is if using the analogy of offering the chair to the other, if both people are trying to treat the neighbor as the self because they are in the group, who sits? Everybody sits, and it's more like this. Let's say I was going to take a glass of water or tea. I would take this tea with the intention that all those who need the tea would also taste the tea, that it's not for me. It's an intention. Before I drink, in a sense, it's this intention. I'm not saying that this is some kind of a spiritual practice. Think about this before you do something. No. Make a blessing before everything you eat. No, not saying that. But that's the meaning of those things on the spiritual level. That is, the intention needs to first be for the spiritual fulfillment of the other. I love the friend, not so that I fulfill myself, but so that the friend reaches what they need. There was a question this week on the forum, and it was along these lines that you're asking. And there's this example that I can give. Let's say that you've been working very hard, for months on this, and you're working in the group and you're doing everything you can, and suddenly you're there with your friend and the gates of heaven open. But only one person can go in. So this answers the question about who sits. The gates of heaven open and only one person can go in. And you decide to let your friend go in and the gates close. Which person entered heaven? Think about it. Let's look at the... So we only have one question. There's one Spanish question? Okay. Madian from Spain. Are there 613 aspects or attributes or features to any desire? And that's what needs to be corrected? No, there are 613 layers of the will to receive. And it is each one of these shells needs to be removed from it until we reveal that at the core of the will to receive, actually, at the corrected core is really the will to bestow. Jill from Tampa, is love your neighbor near developing bestowal? I think you know now that it is one and the same thing. Parnell from Hollywood, Florida, since it can't be done through our physical senses in the material world but through the point in the heart, how do we deal with the friend who doesn't have the point in the heart yet? You do it first with the friend who does. You gain the capability to love the friend as the self on a single point of desire. And once this group acquires that ability, and you're dealing with not just those people who you're aware of right now studying with you, but with the larger world Kli, and in that group of B'nai Baruch, there are thousands of people, some of them who've been studying for a very long time, and the whole group is doing all kinds of work, taking the force of the desire for the bonding that they have